Here we're going to talk about how to calculate the area of a circle and do some example problems. So you don't need to memorize this formula because it's on the formula sheet. And if you look at the area of a circle, the formula is pi r squared, and then it gives you that pi is 3.14. So we saw this when we were doing circumference problems as well, that pi equals 3.14 is just a constant that we can use for this symbol called pi, pi. So the way that you read this is pi times r squared, where r is the radius. If you don't know what the radius is, you need to watch the Circles Part 1 video on radius and diameter. So the other thing you need to know is that this is an exponent. It's r squared. So if you don't know what exponents are, you need to watch the video on Facebook about exponents. So what this means though is when it's r squared, it means that number times itself. It doesn't mean times 2. So it's pi times the radius is essentially what this formula means. Pi times the radius of the circle. That's what pi r squared means. And pi, if you need the number, you just put 3.14 in for pi. So when we're talking about area of a circle, if you remember, the circumference was the measurement around the circle. It was the distance around the circle was circumference. The area is essentially, if we were going to cover the circle, that's the area. The units are going to be in square units when we talk about area. So if we're talking about covering something, or painting the top of a table, we're talking about area. It's the area inside the circle. So if we look at this formula and we're given, let's say, a problem where you have a circle and they tell you that the radius is 5 feet. What is the area? Well, we just plug in our formula. Pi, the radius here is 5, so that's 5 squared. That equals pi. 5 squared means 5 times 5. It's 5 times itself. So I'll write that out. 5 times 5. That's what r squared means. So that equals pi times 25. When these two things are written beside each other, it just means multiplication. So we substitute, if we want the number, we substitute 3.14. So I'm going to come down here. Pi is 3.14 times 25. That's all that means. So plug in 3.14 for pi, multiply it by 25. When you have two numbers written in parentheses, that means multiplication. So 3.14 times 25, you get your calculator out, and that equals 78.5. Remember, this was feet, square feet. When you're doing area, your units are always going to be squared. Because remember back here, and the reason is, this was 5 feet times 5 feet. So feet times feet gives you a square unit. So anytime you're doing area, your units are going to be squared. So this is a pretty straightforward problem where they give you the radius, you just plug it into the formula, get your calculator out, and figure it out. That's probably not going to be the kind of problem you're going to get on the GED test. So we're going to do some more complicated problems using this concept. So let's say that Kate wants to make a circular mirror with a diameter of 2 feet. It's going to cost her 14 cents per square inch to make the glass. What is the total cost? So she wants to make a mirror. It's going to be a circular mirror. The diameter is going to be 2 feet. to put the glass over the top of it, so here we're talking about area because we're covering it, it's going to cost her 14 cents per square inch. So what's the total cost? So we want to find the area, how many square inches it is, multiply that by 14 cents, and that would give us the total cost. So we have a mirror. Now remember what diameter is, of 2 feet. But in our formula for area of a circle, we want radius, not diameter. So again, if you don't know the relationship between these, watch the video on Facebook, the Circles Part 1, about radius and diameter. So here, if the diameter is 2 feet, the radius is 1 foot. But we don't, here we have feet, but the cost is going to be in inches. So this is another thing to look for in the GED test, is that they sometimes mix up the units to confuse you. So make sure you always look at what units you have to make sure that they're matching up, because we can't calculate something in square feet if the cost is going to be in square inches. So it's generally easier to convert the units to the smaller thing. So a foot is bigger than inches. Inches are smaller. So it'd be easier to convert feet to inches. So how many inches are in 1 foot? Well, you should know that. There are 12 inches in a foot. So we have a 2 foot diameter, which is a 1 foot radius, because we want radius, not diameter. So we have to convert this to radius in order to use our formula. But we don't want feet, we want inches. So we're going to then convert 1 foot into 12 inches. So this is all the same thing, I'm just showing you how we get to the right units and the fact that we want radius and not diameter. So now we just need to figure out what's the area of the circle and then multiply that by 14 cents. So what's the area of this? Again, you just get your formula sheet out. It's pi times radius squared. Well, our radius is 12. Radius squared. This is pi times 12 times 12, which is, again, we just put 3.14 in for pi. Get your calculator out. 12 times 12 is 144. So 3.14 times 144 is 452.16. I'm going to write that down here. So our answer is 452.16 square inches. That's the area of this circle, of the mirror that we want. So now it costs us 14 cents per square inch. We have 452.16 square inches. What's the total cost? We just multiply that by 14 cents. I'm going to actually change it to dollars. So how do you write 14 cents as dollars? Is 0.14. You can write it, you can just multiply it by 14, but then you're going to have your answer in cents, not dollars. You plug this into your calculator, and you're going to get $63.30. So that's the answer to this question. So again, if they give you the diameter, you have to find the radius. Make sure your units are right. Find the area. In a question like this, they're telling you, the cost per square inch. So first you have to find the area, multiply it by the cost per square inch, and then you get the total cost. We'll do another question. This is a question you're probably most likely to get. You have a larger circle and then a smaller circle. And they want to know, what is the area of the shaded region? So it's this kind of like a tire where you have the rim. What's the area of the outside? So let's say that they tell you that the radius of the larger circle, so going all the way out to the larger edge, is 3 feet. The radius of the smaller one, so just going out to this inside edge, is 2 feet. So you want to know what is the area just of this outside thing, not of the whole thing, just of this outside area. So the way that you're going to do that is you're going to find the area of the whole thing, of the larger circle. So here's the larger circle, 3 feet. We're going to find the area of the larger one, and then we're going to subtract out the area of the smaller one. So we have the larger one, we're going to find the area of that, subtract out the area of the smaller one, and that's going to leave us with the area of this outside edge. The other thing I'm going to introduce to you here is sometimes they're going to leave the answer in terms of pi. So your answers might be like 2 pi, 3 pi, 4 pi, 5 pi. So if you see an answer in terms of pi, that means they don't want you to multiply it out with numbers. They just want you to leave it in terms of pi. So that's how we're going to do this question. So again, we're going to take the area of the larger one, subtract out the area of the smaller circle, and that's going to give us the area of the outside edge because that's what's left over. So what's the area of the larger circle? Again, what's your formula? Pi r squared. The radius is 3. So it's pi 3 squared. 3 times 3 is 9. So it's pi times 9. Normally, when we have pi in a number, we reverse those. So it's actually, so pi times 9 is the same thing as 9 times pi. But here we can just write it or read it as 9 pi. So that's the area of the bigger circle, is 9 pi. Again, we're going to leave it in terms of pi. We're not going to multiply it out because our answers are in terms of pi. What's the area of the smaller circle? Pi r squared. Pi, the radius is 2. So it's pi, 2 times 2 is 4. So that equals, we're going to write it as 4 pi. So here we have the larger circle is 9 pi. The smaller circle is 4 pi. So to get the outside edge, we're just going to subtract those two. 9 pi minus 4 pi. So when you have pi here, you kind of just ignore it since it's in each number. 9 minus 4 is 5. So the answer to this question would be 5 pi. So again, anytime you have something like this, sometimes they will want you to multiply it out. You take the larger one, the area of the larger, minus the area of the smaller, and that will give you the answer on the area of this outside thing that's left over. We'll do one more question. Say we have this circle, and we're going to call this circle Q. Then we have another circle inside of this circle, and we're going to call this smaller circle R. The diameter of R is 6 inches. So the diameter of the smaller circle R, which is inside a bigger circle Q, the diameter is 6 inches. And the question is going to be, how much bigger is circle Q than circle R? And the answers are going to be twice as big, 3 times, or 4 times. So we're going to compare the two areas. And again, we're going to leave things in terms of pi, but we don't have to. So you want to find what's the area of the larger circle and how much bigger is that than the area of the smaller circle. So don't get freaked out by a question like this. It's just what's the area of the larger, what's the area of the smaller one, and how do you compare the two. So the area of Q, again, is pi r squared. Here, the radius, they've told us, is 6. Pi r squared, 6 squared, equals pi times 6 times 6. 6 times 6 is 36. I'm just going to write it as 36 pi. I'm going to leave it like that. Area of R, circle R. Now here they've given us the diameter as 6, so that means the radius is half of that. So the radius of R is 3. Remember in our formula you have to have the radius, not the diameter. So the area of R is pi times 3 squared, R squared. 3 squared is 3 times 3 is 9, so it's 9 pi. So here we have 36 pi. Here we have 9 pi. How much bigger is 36 than 9? Well, the way that you can figure that out is 36 divided by 9 equals 4. Put that in your calculator if you don't know it. It's 4. So this is 4 times larger than circle R. So this is the answer, C. It's 4 times bigger. 36 pi is 4 times bigger than 9 pi. Let's say you wanted to actually multiply this out. 36 pi is 36 times 3.14. You put that in your calculator, you get 113.04. 9 pi, 9 times 3.14. You put that in your calculator, you're going to get 28.26. So how much bigger is that than that? Again, you just do a division, and you're going to get 4. So 113.04 is 4 times larger than 28.26. So the answer is the same, whether you multiply it out or not.